Do you like vampires? I do. And on today's video of Homerik, we're going to talk about just that. I've always been a fan of Dracula and the fictional world of things like Castlevania. Today, I really want to dive deep into the real nature of the original Dracula. And I'm not talking about Bram Stoker's Dracula. His name was Vlad Tepes III, also known as the Impaler. Now, we know that Bram Stoker's 1897 story of Dracula was something that sparked the imagination of countless pop culture references. Vampires took the world by storm, and we can thank Bram for that. But were it not for the Prince of Wallachia in Romania, where we would have found all the inspiration that Bram would have needed in order to create this wonderful, blood-sucking story. Bleh, bleh, bleh. So why did they call him the Impaler? Well, for one, that was Vlad's favorite way of disposing of his enemies, but we'll get to why he even got there. And something that I noticed during my research is that they're not really that common, the nature of Dracula and Vlad, although there is much inspiration that would have led to creating Dracula. The actual Dracula was a very different person with very, very different intentions. So Vlad III was born in 1431 in Romania, in Transylvania, region within the country. Transylvania is located in central Romania, and I want to make mention that Vlad actually didn't own anything of his own. No, he didn't. Even if he was the Prince of Wallachia, Vlad wasn't even located in Bran's Castle. Bran's Castle. What is that? Well, if you go ahead and look for Bran's Castle on Google, people will all over tell you this is Dracula's castle. But it wasn't actually even Dracula's castle. Bran's Castle is just a castle that's in Romania, in Transylvania, that looks very spooky. That's it. It's nothing more, nothing less. But there is actually some history of Vlad in that castle. For those who are actually interested in taking the tourist attraction, you will find a little bit of history of Vlad the Impaler and the inspiration and to why Dracula the Vampire became such a big hit. So, I guess credit where credit's due. You'll find some cool stuff if you visit Bran's Castle. Scholars think that Vlad was possibly born in the town of Târgoviște, or, well, they call it the capital is actually, of Wallachia. And it was him that was actually supposed to take the royal seat in this capital. It was a castle by the name of Tokat Castle, complete with dungeons and tunnels located in Turkey, where Vlad actually spent most of his time growing up. But to get to that castle, we start at Wallachia in Târgoviște, where Vlad was born. And Vlad II, Vlad III's father, there's a lot of Vlads here, where Vlad's father was actually inducted by the Holy Roman Emperor in 1431, when Vlad was born, to become a member of something called the Order of the Dragon. When he became a member of the Order of the Dragon, the Holy Roman Emperor gave him a new surname, Dracul. Dracul is derived from the old Romanian name, or word, really, for drac, which means dragon. In modern days, drac in Romanian means devil. And modern meaning like anything after really like 1400. So Bram Stoker, who wrote Dracula, was actually familiar with the modern association of the word drac for devil. You can see where being part of the order of really the devil sort of gave Bram Stoker inspiration here to be one with the vampire. But the actual term for drac during that time, 1431, with Vlad. Vlad essentially had to adopt, really, the name because of his father. And so he became Dracula, which meant the son of Dracul. So, Dracula, bleh, bleh, bleh. That was the surname of Vlad Tepes III. So the Order of the Dragon had one simple task, and it was to stop and destroy the Turkish and Ottoman Empire. So, Vlad II, okay, the father, he goes on a diplomatic trip in 1442 with his sons, Vlad III and Radu. Not the pasta, not ragu, Radu, okay? So they go to the Ottoman Empire to figure out some sort of diplomacy here. But, of course, it's a trap! So Vlad is put in a very particular situation. In order for Vlad to walk out alive, he has to give up his sons. And you know what he does? He does exactly that. Father of the Year. So he gives up his sons to the Ottoman Empire, and Vlad and Radu, they grow up into men learning about philosophy, science, art, and the martials of fighting as a warrior. And Vlad goes back to Wallachia as the ruler, and he submits to the Ottoman Empire and pays tribute so that his sons could stay alive and so that there could be peace between the Ottoman Empire and Romania. But of course, this wouldn't be enough. Vlad II was doomed to die. And over the course of time, as Vlad III and his brother Radu were growing up, the brothers split ways in philosophy. Vlad III still held on to animosity that he had to live with the Ottomans and the Turkish. He hated them. Yes, he grew up with them, but he knew what they did, how they stripped him away of the life that he had as being prince of his own town. And Radu decides he likes the ways of the Turkish. So, Vlad, upon hearing that his father is killed in the swamps near Targoviste in 1447, decides to make a campaign to go back home and to reclaim the throne, since there is no ruler there, known as a voivode, to fill in the gap for the tributes they needed to still, pay taxes. And without no ruler, what were they going to do? So Vlad goes back, and he reclaims his seat in Wallachia. So what does Vlad do? Vlad, with all this animosity built up and penting up, he says, to hell with the Ottoman Empire. To hell with the Sultan. You're not getting any tribute from me anymore. He cements his opposition to the Ottoman Empire. So the nobles, the boyars, oppose Vlad's choice. They say, you will bring ruin to us all. We need the Ottomans. It's not very fun for Vlad to hear. So one day, Vlad decides to invite all of the nobles, the boyars, to a banquet, a feast so great, he hosts everyone. And what does he do? He has his men stab each and every one of them and impale them on spikes with their twitching bodies still moving to show this isn't a game. Oh no. I hate the Ottomans. I don't bow to the Ottomans. I don't bow to you, weaklings. Blah, blah, blah. No, Vlad says, screw you. I am Vlad the Impaler. And they weren't the only ones either. Vlad would impale Saxons who came by who were related and merchants and helping the Ottoman Empire travel goods across the land. And it was only when there was a group of Ottoman envoys who came in efforts for diplomacy, of course, seeing all the ferocious actions that Vlad had impaled upon. These Ottoman diplomats decide, let's come to reason, let's come to terms, maybe we can figure something out. So, Vlad goes like, okay, let's hear you out. What do you have to say? Oh, by the way, can you put your hats off at the door? Hats? What? No, they had turbans, of course. We're talking about the Ottomans here, the Turkish. And no, they said, it is our religious duty to wear our turbans. No, we won't do that. I'm sorry, but that's not how it's going to go down. So Vlad was like, wow, guys, I really think that's fantastic. You guys are so devoted to your religious traditions. Why don't we make that a permanent thing and hammer in some nails into your head with your turbans on so they'll never actually pop off. Let's do that. So their head coverings were nailed to their skulls, quite literally. This was in 1462. And word got around, so Vlad was not very popular with the Ottomans, to say the least. And so Vlad's adversary, a very powerful one, Mehmet II, who was responsible and involved with the fall of Constantinople, comes over into Targovishte and witnesses not a populated town, actually a deserted town. And he sees that in front of the gates of the capital are these impaled diplomats with their turbans on their head. And Mehmet says, no, this isn't going to happen. We cannot continue with this madness. Vlad, you are overpowered. You will unseat your throne and you will be exiled. You must be banished to Hungary, never to return. And that's exactly what happens. Almost. So, Vlad gets sent to prison in Hungary, and in between that time, he actually, has a wife and a child. Actually, there are some descendants of Vlad that you can find in records up to just about the 1800s. So, yes, there's possibility that Vlad the Impaler still has descendants of the living today. I'd be interested to find some more of that in the history books. But, remember Radu? Yeah, so Radu was still alive. And Brother Radu, working with the Ottomans and the Turkish, decides, hey, well, my brother is not in Wallachia anymore. So how about I take that throne and do what we were supposed to do and pay our tribute to the Ottoman Empire? He is approved. But he does not last for long, for in 1475, Radu dies. And guess who tries to come back? Yes, the very same Vlad the Impaler hears of the death of his brother, and in 1476 reclaims his throne with the help of a friend from Moldavia. a nearby town, and another voivode, Stephen III the Great. Vlad, don't get me wrong, very harsh. But Vlad, to the people of the towns in Romania, was considered a just ruler. They didn't want to be beholden to the Turkish Ottoman Empire, so they decided to, yes, keep Vlad. Vlad is eliminating our foes. And it is here where we find the end of our story. Vlad attempts to go to battle again with the Ottomans and dies in an ambush laid out by his enemies. There is much debate whether he is buried in Romania or in other parts of the world like Italy. But one thing is for certain, that Vlad the Impaler, Dracula, was a real man with real goals, real intentions and feelings, if you want to call him that. What really strikes interesting is how, unlike Dracula in his way of life and who he was as a person, he is very much like Dracula. That his legend is undying. And perhaps there is some truth to the vampiric tale of the devil Dracula in combination with the dragon Dracula. If you like this video, please give it a like and a thumbs up so you help support this channel. I look forward to giving you more content like this coming soon. Take care.